Hello and welcome to the Alchemist and The Oracle, where we get into honest, spiritualized conversations as spiritual warriors that we are. My name is Nicole, Nick Love, and I am the Oracle, and I am with the Alchemist over here. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Warriors are the Aren.
I like how she said that, like, you don't know who I am. So today we are going to be talking about, we were inspired to have this conversation about the character Sadness in the movie Inside Out. I think it's a Disney-Pixar movie, I think.
Yes, it is.
So why are we having this conversation before we get into the conversation about sadness?
We're having this conversation because you and I were talking, communicating, doing our warrior thing. You know how we do.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow it came up in our conversation, and I told you I don't like being sad, and I couldn't stand sadness. And I think we ended up talking about In and Out movie, and I told you I couldn't stand sadness in the movie because she got on my nerves.
Yes,
And
that's what you said. Mm-hmm. And I got offended.
yeah, because she's sadness and I'm joy. And so through
Yes.
the movie, I recognized I was joy. And so when certain things went on with sadness, I was like, ugh. I was like, And there's a couple of spots that we'll talk about in the movie where joy kind of had some emotions that joy didn't want to have. And a couple of them
Mm-hmm.
was in the beginning at headquarters. So if you haven't seen the movie, it's definitely on Disney. And then Inside Out 2 came out. So that's a whole different story. So we got to talking about it. And you said, well, let's have the conversation about sadness. And why I don't like to be sad. I just don't. I just haven't been. I've had to not be. And come up with the conversation of why that might be.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, joy is joyful, joyful.
So I think you hit on a really good point where I'm very much sadness. I'm like,
Mhm.
I rock with sadness hard. She was like my favorite character in Inside Out
Mhm.
because I felt her. I'm like, that's my girl. And so many people hated her. And I guess I connected to that because growing up, a lot of people, I felt like she was the misunderstood emotion in Inside Out. And as someone who grew up being very misunderstood, I
Agreed.
instantly trauma bond with sadness. And she was blue, and I like the color blue. And I'm not gonna tell you,
Yes, she
I have
was.
to tell you, Joy
I'm
got on
wearing
my
blue.
nerves in that movie. I was like, can she please
Figures.
calm down? It's like too much. Bring it down. You're at 100. I need you to bring it at least down to 85. Okay.
There was some points that
It was
I
like, oh my
believe joy
gosh.
can be, and I'm with you there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but everything she touched, she was just souring and making all
But what
sad
was
and
it? It
stuff.
was souring it.
Yeah. Well, at the one point, I thought that. I mean, um, there were certain memories. It's like joy. No, you can't sadden those core joyful moments. There might be some sad moments, but you can't mess with those moments. That's just a no.
But
That's
you know
where
what I
joy was at.
realized? Why I think they put it in the movie in that way? Because the moments were happy. And I think sometimes as we get older, we start reflecting back and we can have a bit of nostalgia about, the
Mm-hmm.
things that have happened. So I kind
Mm-hmm.
of realized, like, oh, that's why she was kind of able to touch them and they would turn sad. Because it's like, it shows you that reflection, that inflection that sometimes we can have looking back and reviewing the emotions, especially for Riley, because Riley was transitioning through a huge life shifting moment.
Yeah.
Like she moved to a different state, I think, right? in
Yeah, it'll
totally
still be
different
good for
space.
people to see the movie. But if you don't know, Riley is the main character for which the emotions are telling a story
They're inside
through
her
her mind,
head.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and all inside all of our heads, for that matter, to go through that shift. So looking at the movie again, and obviously I've seen it more than once. I look at it again. I kind of can embrace her as we, talk about why that is, and why it's still. I don't do sad. Something happened today, for example, and I forgot some very important papers because I was going to try to take care of business because I had to travel a certain distance somewhere where I was going to be, and so I had shared that with another veteran, and and my attitude was that even though that happened, today is still a great day. She said, well, that's a good way to think of it. I probably said it differently because my stuff don't come out the same. It's always in what happens or what's said in the moment. And
Mm.
so I'm like, well, yeah. So I'm thinking about the movie because, the discussion, and yeah, that's just the essence of me. Is sometimes I think that, you know, and I have consoled people. I mean, I think it's more about me consoling and the fact that I haven't been consoled. So it's really hard for me to sit in it. I can have it for a moment. I know I'm sad, but I shake it off and I'm like George, like, okay, what's next? What's next? Let's go. You know,
Yeah.
that's what's up.
Okay.
What?
I hear you. I understand that. So we're gonna dive in a little deeper with the
Mm-hmm.
characters, and we're gonna use like the character sadness, and we're gonna talk a little bit about joy too, because they were like really kind of. I don't even want to say that sadness was butting heads against joy. She was just like, I'm doing me. I can't help but do me. You're the one that's having a
Yeah.
visceral response to me. Like, girl, I don't know what's up with you.
You don't know. Sadness didn't get it. She
I
didn't get
think
it.
I don't even know that sadness didn't get it. I think
But she was learning. They both were learning each
sadness
other.
understand. I think she understood where joy was coming from, but I think she also knew that she had a path, like she was purposeful, and that what joy was saying, it was like I said, girl, you're doing too much. You're doing too much. You need to. But anyway, so we're gonna talk about what is the purpose of sadness when it comes to like spiritual integration,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm gonna dive into what is the spiritual connection of sadness. Um, as I see it, and I'll let you kind of jump in too. I feel the spiritual connection to sadness, just taking it into like how I am sadness. I'm that sad space of it's honoring people's emotions, and a lot of people carry a certain level of sadness and transitioning and changing, and a lot of
Yes.
times through recognizing that you're being called to evolve beyond where you are, there can be a grieving process of what was, and there's a level of sadness with that I think a lot of people don't talk about in the spiritual community, about the
Yes.
grieving process of the evolution of you moving, not necessarily moving away, but expanding beyond,
Tra-
where you are.
transforming.
Yeah, you can put it in that context as well. So I look at sadness as an opportunity to really, and I think it's important to hold that space. And when you look at like sadness in the movie, the scene that I sent you, I love, that's like my favorite scene. With Bing Bong, and she's holding the space for him, acknowledging his emotions, and like, yeah,
His
I
loss,
I
what he
do
lost.
hear
Yeah.
that. I want to honor. It's like you honor people's emotions, and she honored that he was feeling sad, that he was going through this period of, like he was sad about the fact that this rocket that him and Riley played with like went over to the abyss of whatever. I don't even remember what it's called. Is it the abyss of
Yes.
nothingness?
Yeah. 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 Lost.
It's
Just
amazing
totally
what I,
gone.
yeah.
I don't think
And
our memory's
so
ever totally gone, but it was gone. He
I think
lost
it
something that he
just
couldn't get
goes
back.
to the depths because it's still within the mind, but it goes to the depths of, you just kind of, it's very deeply rooted in the subconscious mind. But she's sitting there and like holding the space for him and just acknowledging and honoring, like, yeah, that would be, I recognize and see how that would be upsetting that you're having to transition and move away from what you, that core memory that he had with her that was filled with joy, you know.
With
And so
Riley,
there's
yes.
sadness about that. And also too, that scene highlights how the parts of our childhood we still carry with us, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't always tap into that. And I always kind of look at that scene as like Bing Bong was still there and rocking with Riley, and Riley wasn't really connecting with Bing Bong in that way because she was evolving and transforming in her life. Uh, and so that kind of highlighted the sadness of that reality too. But she just really holds the space to honor and meet people where they are. I think that is the spiritual connection of sadness at the
Yeah.
base level of it. Of course, it's very very layered. What do you think?
I agree. It's definitely that. It's just a part of who we are in essence. Dismissing it, I don't think really serves us any well,
Mm.
as I've come to recognize and realize. But um, Bing Bop was afraid of, and I think we had this fear where fear kind of comes in. It was afraid and sad about that. Riley would not remember him. And so that was the biggest
Mm.
thing, is that he would be forgotten in her memories.
Yeah.
As her real good friend when she was younger, and of course she evolved. And so at the time that sadness was approaching and joy, me was like, oh, sadness, what you doing? Where you going? And oh, she's like, oh
Yeah.
no, no, no. And so what transpired with joy and the understanding that goes back and forth with them is that once she acknowledged, as you said, him and allowed him to speak, and most of us have not had the opportunity to really share how somebody comfort us. And for me, without somebody coming back with their own stuff, Sadness was just there to listen. She understood. And so Joy is she's kind of like this, but she's paying attention. And then after he is able to voice Bing Bong, then Joy is over there, and then he's like, I'm
Yeah.
ready to go. And then Joy's like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's like through the honoring, and you see it in the scene, and I'll try to like link it, the video that I'm talking about. It's on Instagram. It's the Instagram reel.
Mhm.
But in the scene, it is this reminder of the spiritual purpose, the gifting of sadness is that it, by honoring it, acknowledging it, it can empower you. And so it's like you see sadness sitting with him and listening with him and just honoring his sadness, and then you just see like the shift. He's like, okay, let's do it. Let's get it going. Like it empowers him to get up. And I think you kind of see Joy a little bit annoyed, like, oh my God, we don't have time for this. And it's just like the reminder is you sometimes you need to make time for it. Because had she
Mhm.
had like pushed him to do it, he wouldn't have been tapped in the same way. Had Sadness say, like, let's sit and honor how you're feeling so he can use that and be empowered.
To
And
move to the next step. Yeah.
yeah, to like,
So
okay,
Joy kind of
get
got it,
the,
and then once he got it, Joy was like, Joy was like, "Hey, the train, let's get
yeah,
on
she's
it."
like,
It's
okay,
it was through this
yeah,
journey in the mind,
yeah.
and we all go through it. We just all don't acknowledge it, and
Hmm.
and um, and that's the thing we do. When I look at my travels, when I look at the towns I go to, especially the one that I'm living in, it is what it is because I mean we've come up on a couple of songs like Kirk Franklin's "I Smile," and we need to smile where we need to honor where we are, but I think we stay stuck in our heads and our mind and what's going on around us instead of honoring that and moving on and looking at, okay, what can we do next? Okay, I get it, I honor that. And let's move to the next level to give us a chance to think about what we're feeling and connect with the nature of the feeling, so we can move on to the next. It's just like honoring someone who we've lost, which you know, being
Mm-hmm.
Bob was experiencing loss,
Yeah.
and it made him sad. I just allowed and became aware. I think we might have spoken on this before I went to Detroit, and my energy was off. My energy was very well off. As and to realize that, but not to have anybody around except for one of my cousins who I said that, and I'm like, everybody's understanding, and I started to tear, and I don't like to tear, and I don't normally tear in front of someone I knew, and even though it was a relative, I'm not around them as much, and we got this hug because I did honor the fact that I celebrate life. That with her, I think some other stuff come on. All my people, are going. My dad, some are gone. We were really, really tight. And so I honored the fact that I know that I was sad even before I left because I had tears here in my office and honored that. I didn't let them linger. And so it's always a progression in the aspect that the spiritualness of it is that you need to allow yourself to feel it,
Yeah.
to experience it, to sit with it, to honor it, and the thing that I believe we're mentioning before is if not, it sits in the body. And if it's not released and sits in the body, it can do different things in the body that's not desirable of us.
Yeah, it's not for our highest good. It's not our divine blueprint.
No.
Yeah. Um, so you kind of talked about avoidance of feeling. Oh, well, before that, I also want to kind of go through really quickly some of the other spiritual characteristics. I have them written down.
All
Um,
right. All right.
so in the movie, so sadness plays like what is the spiritual connection of sadness is emotional depth and understanding. You see that play out in the scene that we were talking about. And then it talks about, it can be a catalyst for transformation where you see in the scene Bing Bong is empowered through the honoring of his feelings and her saying, I understand, and kind of reminded him that you still carry that memory with you.
Yes.
Connection and empathy, it can allow you to really um, connect to how you're feeling and empathize with those emotions and really allowing yourself to be vulnerable. I think vulnerability is really a part of the process of processing through emotions. And when we don't, we become vulnerable on a physical level, and we'll kind of get into the avoidance of it. You leave yourself vulnerable to those physical
Illness,
attachments and things that dis-ease within the body that leads to
disease.
diseases. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll round out the last three: acceptance and perseverance. Acceptance is a spiritual practice that really acknowledges all emotions are valid. And that's a key thing. All emotions are valid. And I think a lot of people aren't aware of that. I think
Mhm.
it's kind of like one of the things that we learn through reading The Way of Mastery. It talks about how can you be in that space of neutrality and
Right.
allowing things
Right.
just to exist without putting judgment of it being bad or good. Just realizing it's neutral. It's
And
neutral
that's
and
a
it's
practice.
serving. It is.
Mhm.
It's all a practice. Um, and then insight and reflection, and then also the role it plays in emotional integration. The more you acknowledge your emotions, the more you get to level of mastery with being with yourself and processing through your emotions, so you can have a greater understanding of emotional depth. And it kind of goes back through the cycle of what I said. It becomes this catalyst for transformation. You start to accept and how you feel and how the change has occurred and showed up, and you continue moving on, because you're empowered by it. So those are some of the characteristics, like on a spiritual level, in terms of how sadness really has that connection, and I think is the purpose. So you spoke a little bit about the impact of avoidance and sadness, and what's been your experience personally? I,
Well,
I have several I can share.
I obviously don't. Hmm.
Do you want me to go while you process that question?
I don't do. I mean, I've had several. I would say at a young age with death, it was very hard because everybody was feeling their own feelings, but because anybody didn't want to feel their feelings, they weren't able to comfort me. So an
Mm-hmm.
example is, I want the men to stand here because we're gonna bring you in. It's just at the beginning, in a little bit with a character from This Is Us. But I would say the gravest one, well, the first that I'm aware was when my great grandmother passed from her second stroke as we were going out the side door. So I remember, like, what's taking the ambulance so long? At that time, CPR was just coming into the range, and it wasn't really known. And they didn't have half of what they have on the EMS because this was a station wagon that came. And it wasn't much. So she was DOA. I didn't know what that meant till later, dead on arrival. And so long story short is that I ended up crying. So everybody came and through all the film. I was just crying. I just couldn't have it crying. So I was getting this, stop crying. You're gonna make everybody cry. It wasn't that I wasn't consoled. So that might and could go on over a whole period of time that I had to just be that. So um ended up finding joy, had the village. My best girlfriend growing up, my brother, his best friend across the street, my best male friend growing up. So like the five of us, and I remember kicking in my brother's room, and I was still sad. Everybody telling me to suck it, basically telling me to suck it up, but I won't suck it up, so I kept crying. So because it really hurt, she was gone. I knew that. I didn't know the nature of it, and the spirituality of it is that it hurt to have her lost because she stayed up, helping my mother out, stayed in the room with us. And we got to know a little bit about her. She was funny. But one of the things that brought me out was a joy thing, was a song by Chuck Berry. And this song to this day it's an interesting song to say the least, but I'm telling you, it's a song that made me laugh. So that connection also connect my spiritualness and that to music uplifting, even when I'm down, to uplift, to have me recognize certain things when I'm in that place. And Chuck Berry's song is my ding-a-ling-a-ling, and the song still makes me laugh. Just to say it makes me laugh. To
Even your screen was like, what? Your screen
I
shook.
know, right?
It
So
shooketh. What? Wait, wait,
so the
wait, wait.
connection for
How did
mine
wait,
was,
wait, wait, wait. How did that song help you?
I
How,
don't know. We were in a room. It made us all laugh. We all laughed.
oh,
It took
okay.
me from crying to laugh. We were all laughing. It's the lyrics. It's just the
I mean,
lyrics
the
to the
name
song.
alone.
There's another song. I won't even. I can't even
Anyway,
go there
let's
because
let's
it
let's
doesn't.
let's
There's
proceed
another one by Claire's Card that made me laugh too, but we won't go there. So my connection is the depth of that sadness is because talking with you, going over and looking at it, it's hard to say. It just I don't think at times I was concerned. I was a strong person, so we had to not do something. So, I
Mhm.
mean, for a whole year, I didn't sleep in my room, but I still dressed up there and I still got excellent grades. So, my soul is a unique soul of connection and how it diverts and handles different things. But I don't like to sit in it. I think recognize is good because if you don't, then it sits in the body. So, and we'll get to that, but it's just that. So
Well,
I felt joy when sadness comes. She drove me nuts, but I come to embrace the fact, the connection, and how they both ended up serving one another, and they both ended up learning how they matter together in the minds of all of us, actually, not so much just the character for which they were portraying as this child. And we were thinking Inside Out is a she's young, and then in Inside Out 2, of course, she's growing older, because when you look at the movie, there's a puberty button towards the end, so that says next phase, right? So sadness, I recognize that I didn't like to see people sad either. So I definitely could connect with joy on a spiritual level is that. But I guess we have to have it. And I was just like, because I'm the one, okay, I listen, I hear you. Okay, what can we do next? What can we do? How can I help? So I'm definitely that person. But like I said, it's about shifting, transforming, alchemizing the mind in order to assist and help others, and recognizing the importance of that emotion. I don't like anger either, but that's another topic and for another story. But I understand that I need to, feel those feelings, because they have a spiritual connection for growth and the honor and to set boundaries in that manner. Even sadness, setting boundaries.
mm.
So my connection, comes from most of the experiences that I've had that haven't been so great, or disappointment. We get sad in disappointment, or in relationship loss. So like with Bebop, it was losing his relationship in connection with
Bing
Riley.
bong.
Oh, Bing Bong. I thought I had it right. What did I say? Did I call?
It's fine. You say it wrong a couple times. It's fine. It's fine.
No, I
Some
just watched
people
the
may not
movie.
even know who the character is, so it's fine. It's just the name. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Bing Bong. That's
Ping
what I thought I
pong.
said at the beginning of our set here.
I think you did, and then it changed to something else. It's
It
fine.
changed. It changed
You
the
changed to
food, is
something.
what it did.
Yeah,
Change the
yeah.
food.
Are we
Billy Bob, yeah,
hungry?
changed the
Are we
food.
hungry? So I want to share. I want to share like how the impact of avoidance, like my experience. I'll share an experience personally.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had several, and most of them for me have been early on. Um,
Yep.
I will say, I will share the one about my sadness around the relationship with my dad, and
Uh-huh.
how I have avoided, I avoided for so many years, acknowledging that I was sad that my dad, has chosen to not have a relationship with me, and has chosen to even go as far as pretend that I don't exist with people that have actually met me. Um, and so the level of sadness and the impact of me avoiding and acknowledging that really showed up in my relationships when I started dating men.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was avoiding acknowledging that I was sad, I was showing up in relationships saying, like, okay, well, I don't expect you to, I was always expecting who I was dating to not be there for me, that they were gonna like
Mm.
reject me, or, like, prime example, I remember, I remember the first time, my partner that I'm still with, in my 20s, we went on this date, And he asked me on the date, and the entire time I said yes, and I was just like, he's not going to show up because my dad would do that. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so the impact of avoiding the acknowledging of that I was sad about that relationship with my dad, it showed
Sounds
up
familiar.
in that way, in a very unhealthy, dysfunctional way, just in terms of how I was relating to people. And then, I can take it even deeper. I was emotionally eating my pain. I was carrying extra weight. I wasn't feeling good in my body. I had a really poor sense of self value because of that. And
Mm.
it wasn't until I realized that I had to acknowledge that that relationship, I felt sad about it, that I felt neglected, that I felt abandoned, that I felt such a deep sense of disappointment and what have
Mm.
you. And I had to take ownership of how I was avoiding that, and it was impacting myself in terms of how I was showing up in relationships. And most importantly, how I was showing up with the relationship with myself, because it comes back to ourselves.
Yeah.
So the impact of avoiding any emotions, I know we're talking about sadness specifically, and all of the emotions that I said, like abandonment, it ties back to like I had such a deep level of sadness. So avoiding it does not mean that you don't carry it with you, because it always shows up with you. It always shows up with you. It showed up in the very first date that I had with my partner, who I'm still with. And one of the reasons why we're still together is because I had to acknowledge my sadness. I had to sit with
Mm.
it. I had to feel it. And I also had to sit and be vulnerable with him and share, like, my relationship with my dad has made me sad in this way, and I'm working through some things. I think this will be a really good conversation to go a little bit more in depth later
Mm-hmm.
about our parents and things of that nature, or the adults in the room, as they say. But I just wanted to share how avoiding it impacts your life, and this idea that we're avoiding it is not even true, because you still are carrying it with you. And it
Yeah.
just, you carry this heaviness. I was carrying this heaviness. And as someone that works with energy, when you think of energy, and there's a scale that you can look at, and it will show you the frequency of energy, and sadness is
Mm-hmm.
a lower frequency compared to joy.
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and so sadness has that density, and so it's that heaviness that you carry, and you carry that in your body. And by avoiding processing, transmuting it, acknowledging it, it starts to show up in the body. And for me, it was showing up with excess weight, which was
Yes.
causing like skin. I was having skin issues, and as someone that is an esthetician who's supposed to have a beautiful skin, can't have like messed up skin. So that's why, and that's just one story. Like, I have a story that ties to being sad about my job and disappointment and all that. So it's important to acknowledge your sadness, and this
And then,
idea of being strong. You kind of hit on that too, like being strong and what have
mm-hmm.
you, is just not, it's false. You think you're strong, but you're still carrying a level of heaviness with you. And
Well, not honoring those emotions steals your joy. Joy
yeah.
and sadness seem to play hand in hand with one another, where you can come back, sit with that, and then tap back into your joys, what happened with that
Mm-hmm.
particular one scene, and enjoy recognizing the importance of that. And then sadness didn't really understand joy a lot, and sadness kind of figured out kind of where joy, and so it was a whole combination of bringing them all together because it was five emotions. And there's a couple of them I was cool with. I was cool with disgust, but I wasn't cool with anger or sadness. So, and that's one of the other ones. But knowing what I know now, shifting, transforming, becoming aware makes it really okay to do that, I think, is when you sit in it for a long time and don't take the time. Journaling is one great thing to do when you're sad. It's just like me honoring and looking at those emotions, with my aunt, even though I have experienced so much in the 7.5 years of moving back to my hometown and state, has been enormous for someone like me, and to smile through it was what carried me well through it as well. But I just understand that life goes beyond our body, so I was able to honor that part more, celebrate it, or hold space. But even the warrior, needs some time to go release
Yes, ma'am. So,
and honor that as you continue to grow forward and transform as Alchemist does. So
it's all about
uh,
transformation and the
yeah,
allowance of expansion and contraction at the same time. Because I think sometimes you need to contract so you can come back and sit with how you're feeling. And from that contraction, you're able to expand again because it has provided you a sense of it just elevates your energetic vibration by just acknowledging that you're sad. Like, I see it just and I'm sure because you kind of talked about that when you were like dealing with the death of, your family member, and you were sharing like, I'm kind of heavy. And I'm sure for you having someone on the other side just kind of honor and acknowledge that, you started to kind of feel just a little bit of a shift.
I did. We were in the parking lot, and my cousin hugged me. I was talking with him through the window because of another family member. I was very frustrated, but I knew my energy was off. It was
Yeah,
off.
your
It was
energy
off.
was off. That's what you said. Okay. I was
Yeah,
trying to
my
remember what you
energy was
said.
off, and
Yeah.
that's what I was relaying, and I was open about it. And I said to relatives that they know me, but they don't know me. And I'm like, my energy's off. For me to say that meant a lot. That means it was the depth of what I was experiencing with her was not the way. And I'm normally holding space for everyone else, and I couldn't hold that space for me at that time. And this was at the repast, so at the other stuff it was just different, and I didn't have that.
Yeah.
So it was an awareness, and I am thankful for that awareness, because normally, and for me to say it out loud, that means either it means many things. It's like either you can either come and try to or back away. I don't, and not that it was anything negative. It's just that I was feeling what I was feeling, even though spiritually I know that she is fine. I know that the life and how she'll be greeted will be fine, but I know that it's scary leaving. And the fact that she had left hers without me getting to connect with her or see her while she was in body, whether she would have recognized me or not, was a deal, because my cousin didn't let me know that she was close. So I could have drove 2 hours, since I was closer than 800 miles away to see. And what I understand with most people in certain backgrounds, like you can be, but if you don't understand that, because she was saying that she wouldn't have recognized, it wasn't about her consciously, because her spirit is already there, whether her eyes were closed or not. My auntie would have known my presence. So the honor to be able to drive up there and see her before she leave body was really huge for me, and I didn't get that, and I think that was an effect. So, and
Were
contributing
you
to my
sad
Sunday.
about that?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit angry too, but didn't
Huh?
acknowledge the anger
Yeah.
part.
Usually sadness is sadness. It connect there's a linking to sadness, but it's sadness and I'm angry. I'm sad and
hmm
overwhelmed. So,
hmm
yeah. All right.
My
So,
body even got hot saying that. It got warm.
you look like you listening right now. All right, let's pivot. I think this is a great transitional point, because we've been talking about sadness, but I also think it's important to talk about Miss Joy in the movie. So since you're Miss Joy, you're the joy component in this connection. I'm sadness. How would you say, like, what is the purpose of joy in the spiritual integration, spiritually speaking?
Her essence was to uplift even in trying times. So even though she might have got a little flustered with sadness, her thing was to understand that. And even though she had some moments of disgust with that, her thing was
Did
she did, because she
she?
said,
She
yeah,
brought disgust
you
with her.
saw the green ball show up, and she was like, okay, okay, okay. And so that connection is the touch to the very essence that when we're going through something, even though it may not feel good, there's still joy in the moment. There's still something good and positive to take from that moment, and to go to the next step and go to the next level upward. As I seem to do, like what happened with Days, and people think that big things matter. It's the small things that touch us the most. So we want to find joy even in the midst of those small trying things, which give us the opportunity to 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 look at how I move. How do I move in forward despite this challenge, despite this chaotic moment? I use driving a lot, so it's like, okay, I'm in this traffic today. What is my best next move spiritually to get me where I might not, or that I can avoid something. And so joy finds the aspect of the essence that we have to try to overcome and move on, even in the midst of the sadness. But the whole thing in the movie is not to stay there. Sadness has its point. Now we need to move on. Let's go. Let's connect to that higher level of self and continue to move on despite the change. With Riley moving to another city, any move like that, especially when you don't have a choice as a child, is a bittersweet moment. So you try to look in joy, you look for the positive in it, even though you're sad at the same time. So that connection for me is that most of the time, I'm feeling sad, I get up and I sit with it. I had some stuff I deal with. I had to bite the bullet on something yesterday, but I still found that, and I got a music on, got a song on, and like I know that God got me, the God of my understanding, as Major U would say. And that's how I like to relate to that. The God of my understanding. And I know there's a high power created me because it's been proven to me. God has driven my car when I couldn't see. So, um, so joy, I just love it. It's just like walking around the day with a smile. It's transferring that energy to somebody. Even though they may be sad, they can pick up on your energy and have a smile. A smile gives you another couple of years, even though you may be in this moment now. So that spiritual connection is huge for youth, for 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 anti-aging, um, and physical healing.
Mm.
Joy brings. So there's an essence that if you find joy, no matter what goes on in your life, it cannot be stolen. No matter what you go through, whether you feel sad, whether you get angry in that moment, you can always revert back to joy within, to keep you moving forward despite what has happened, and to look for alternatives, better alternatives.
Mm.
And so it's a huge interconnection that can actually reverse. When we talk about body can reverse things, that's why you don't want to sit in certain emotions too long. Joy is forever lasting. So don't let nobody steal your joy. And they all come and they balance each other off. If you look at the movie and how they integrate through the processes of life. So joy is definitely that high for me. It's just a high. It's got me through some stuff.
Yeah.
It's got me through some stuff.
Yeah.
For over umpteen years, it's got me through some stuff. Don't know how. My soul just desires to live. It desires to live through all this and through all of this endurance, through all of this endurance. And that's my spiritual, that's the spiritual connection, is to tap into that. And no matter what happens, no matter through loss, no matter through other things that I hope to speak about, to let people know that you are a victor no matter what, and to stand in victory. And that is a spiritual connection as well, as that we're victorious each and every day. We just have to know that and stand in the joyous freedom and connect with that within, because everything begins within. And all of it, the emotions are all about the mind. How do you choose to utilize every emotion to your benefit? And joy is one of the highest for me to deal with and overcome some of the things that I've endured to keep me moving forward. Uh, yeah, it's helped me keep a roof over my head.
It sounds like what you're saying is that you have been through moments of sadness to the point where you choose joy. You always try to even tapping into, because I think joy, when you kind of like connect it to the movie, it's about how do you integrate the two characters. And I think the most loving thing you can do for yourself, and joyously so, is to acknowledge how you feel if you are sad. And the
Yes.
beautiful gift of joy is that joy is just so like nurturing. And it
Yes.
has like, it, you get to that choosing joy because of the resilience and the hope that you have because you've had sadness.
Oh, yes.
And so
Well said.
the
Well said, my
point of
friend.
this
Well said.
conversation is like, don't avoid any emotion, but how can you integrate them? And I think joy is a great emotion to tap into and to lean into your sadness,
I
you know?
know. Yeah. One thing I wanted to say is when I brought the men in, and and we were talking about keeping the men in so they could understand their women, because women embrace, the majority of women embrace and honor their humility of honor. I'm sad. I'm not feeling a certain kind of way right now.
I don't
And
know. You think that's a,
well,
I don't,
some,
I don't know, because I
well,
feel
but I
like
know, but remember we
culturally
talked about it
speaking,
with being a weakness,
yeah,
like
that
I
strong
like
black woman thing. I think culturally
that
speaking, we do bypass a lot of our emotions. We do. I,
yeah.
I have to
Yeah,
call it
we
out.
do.
We
Okay,
do.
well I do.
I
I
feel like
had.
we're in a false state of joy. I don't even think we're really, a lot of people are not in that real state of joy.
They're
It's
not.
false. It's a false state of joy. They're really sad and they're pretending like they're joyous about their life, but they're still sad.
And that's how Riley ended and how Joy ended up, and sadness both understood. And she was like, at the end, she was like, sadness of how when she missed that goal, she was up in her treehouse,
Mm.
and how everybody came to her and the parents came to her to console her. Not all of us get that though,
Yeah.
because she was sad. And in doing that, she was honored in that, and then joy could resurface
Yeah,
within her.
nurture. Yeah. It's
So when we
tapping
think,
in. Yeah.
so when men feel sad, it's like a weakness or a negativity. So I bring up the fact that I have been watching This Is Us streaming on Netflix now, about the character Randall, especially as a dog, because he was a sensitive man, but still a man nonetheless, with this beautiful woman he married who understood him, understood his the nature of who he was, but still a man nonetheless.
Shout
Because
out to
she
Beth.
gorgeous. Shout out to Beth. That was a character. And
Mhm.
she was real good. And both of them come and conversated. Everybody has their moments, but to honor him and know that, but like I said, everybody has their type. And you just have to keep it real. But what is it that you desire in the person that you're looking for? when you're at that state, not judging, not denying, allowing them to be and feel what they feel in the moment. Have nothing to do with gender. And I could go there, but we won't go there right now. But so yeah, that. So joy is that conduit to come back to, and it's a practice to understand and let go of the world in order to really tap into the joy. And your humanness will come in because it's just that thing with the ego, which is something we'll get into later, but
It's the
not in this
next,
set.
actually, it's the next
It's one of the
episode.
sets.
It's the next episode coming up. I'm excited. Get to get in your head as the alchemist about the ego. But anyway, we'll save that for the next episode.
Well, I hope y'all enjoying this. I'm telling you, because it's just what I see in the world, what I see walking around in the world. It seems like, there's so much sadness, but like I said,
Mm-hmm.
we can't sit in it because it affects our body. Mostly emotions. I mean, joy kind of helps alleviate it, but anger, disgust. There's just some people that just stay disgusted, or they stay this, and it's
I
like,
feel like
come on.
we could have talked about disgust, but she
We could
wasn't
have.
like the point of
No.
the, but what I feel like is, so you had joy and you had sadness,
Yes, they were key
and they
characters.
all the two of them, they ebbed and flow into disgust, anger, even though they weren't with them, those characters,
And
they,
fear,
and
yes.
yes, they were all still with them. The irony was not lost on me. Can you tell I love this movie? I think this movie is so great in talking about the power of emotional awareness and intelligence, and how to process your
Well,
emotions, and that life is not meant for you to like, it's not working against you, it's trying to work with you.
for you, yeah, for you.
And I think one of the things that you see in their relationship, um like the lessons from their friendship, and it does kind of play
Mm-hmm.
out in, like, what's that scene where Joy actually gives Sadness the orb?
Yes, yes. She gives her several orbs and realizes that, and that's when towards the movie where towards the end where our character Riley ends up spilling what she needed to spill to her parents because she was about to bolt. She was about to bolt
Yeah.
town.
Yeah, she was getting ready to run away from home.
Yeah, and I mean anything that we're seeing now, I can't tell you. You still need to watch the movie to grade it because it's so deep. And of course, Coach Diva G, Major Ear,
I'm
Young
gonna
Van Zant's
say you
right
have to
hand.
explain who she is.
Yeah, she's one of the coaches, part of the God Squad. Young Van Zant's one of her main peoples, and
Intervision.
she's also known as Course Lord. Yeah, Intervisions, intervisions.org. Yana Van Zant's huge spiritual um, learning university, and and because of I didn't like the sadness and not dealing with the anger, she told me to watch the movie. And so as I continue to watch it, it still didn't resonate with me at first. But when I look around the world and I walk and I greet and I see people and I pick up being so empathic, it is definitely a topic to understand and to integrate, but yet move from. And literally in respects, keep it moving because you deserve it. You are worthy to keep it moving and to stand and to reconnect with the joy that you are. Is always there. Is always there to tap into. Is always there to grasp and send you forward into whatever your life path has you in. And if we can get out of our heads and out of the world, then we can tap in and do what we were put down here for. They say a lot of people die with books. I don't know that everybody write a book, but we have something to gift the world to leave the world. And so, as we go through and shift and transform into who we are truly meant to be, then joy is key when you're going through the obstacles of life, because you're going to be sad because this didn't go the way you wanted. But I can tell you that there's something greater on the next horizon for you. And, going through those emotions and knowing that can help us step into being the best and stay on a high vibration, I would say. Joy is a high vibration, the higher vibration.
Yeah, she is. So, the lesson. What's the life lesson from Inside Out when it comes to the two characters?
Is that all the
Um,
emotions support each other. They're all valid, they're all worthy of you to experience, and they meld each other and balance each other off.
mhm.
We just have to honor them.
So, I'll add to that. Sadness allows us, just to kind of recap, sadness allows us to really process and let go. And
Yes.
through that process, it creates the space for joy to flourish.
Yes.
Joy reminds us to appreciate the moments, those light
Present,
moments,
present
those
moments.
moments of lightness and happiness, right? While sadness helps to deepen our capacity for gratitude and connection. So when you start to see how they work better together versus fighting against one over the other, it's just a reminder of the need to balance your emotions. And leaning back to what I was saying earlier, reminding yourself that there's not a good or bad emotion. It's just
Right.
not. And I think when we kind of release the fighting against emotions and we stop fighting ourselves and we allow ourselves to feel them, because joy is that lighter emotion. You just feel better in your body and life happens. And I think you can tap into that lightness and acknowledging like the heaviness you're feeling, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not meant for you to carry for the rest of your life where it becomes the story of who you are. I just
Right.
don't believe that. I do not
That
believe
right
that.
there.
So, wrapping up here, what have you found to be really helpful in practical um ways of like processing through like your sadness that you're feeling?
Now, this will probably come up on a lot of different things, but I was just listening to something else. You can do it in your head. Paper, writing things down on paper is really great. The journaling aspect, journaling in your head, you could do that. But I would say that paper is probably still going to always be one of my go-tos. If you want to type on the computer, if that's your mode or method, then that's it.
Mm,
Um, Taking walks, connecting with nature, finding a neighborhood or park, something that makes you smile while you're in the midst of what you're thinking about or in the sadness, because in that, I'm pretty sure it'll bring a smile to your face while you're integrating what it is that may have saddened you at the time.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
and it's a release, it's a help of a release, where you're talking about earth being the joy, the thing that is what it is, and seeing how nature actually acts in such a way that it does, um, helps when you're sad, or going through something or even angry. It can calm you,
Yeah, it grounds
and
you.
help you balance. Yeah, that. Yeah. So those
Grounds you,
are
cocoons you. Yeah, I love
a
those.
cook mine because I love going to the lake. One of
Mm,
the biggest Great Lakes there are, and it's been disrespected, in my opinion, because it's something that I went to very at a young age and realized that connection with the water or the ocean or a cool waterfall. I haven't been to the biggest one yet, but water or creek or any body of water will seem to calm. And then anything that flies calms me. Birds calm me. I just saw some, and they were a true message. So those are some of mine, and I find the greatest joy that I believe because I talk to people. Some of the people might know. I'll tell you in a minute. If you here in town here, go connect with Lake Erie. Go connect. Now that you know, but Lake Erie, spans several towns.
Yes, it does. It does. It does. So to
So yeah.
piggyback on some of your
Or
practical
take a drive. I like driving
spiritual
too.
practices, I agree with journaling. I agree with getting in nature. Walk, just earthing really grounds your energy, and it can help support you in transmuting your energy. And I think a lot of people don't even realize that that's happening. Like you go on a walk and you just feel so much better. It's because you're being held by Mother Earth and she's grounding your energy. She's helping to transmute the density of your feelings. So go on a walk. I feel like that's the best way to clear your mind. That's why they say go for a walk to clear your mind. But there's a reason why, because you're grounding your energy into earth. So I think those are really, really good ones.
Let me incorporate another one. Hold on, baby. I'm sorry. Driving. Getting on the outskirts of anytime wherever you are, getting on the interstate. That's if driving is your thing
I never
because
said,
it's mine.
girl, I got traumatized.
Freedom is mine. Freedom is mine. I drive down the minute. I drive down to your state. We 11. It don't matter. It's
You enjoy
something
driving. You do
about
enjoy
it.
that. Yeah. Yeah. Some people do enjoy driving, even in the craziness of where I am.
Not the
They
city.
don't
You got to
mind
get
it.
on the outskirts and the
Some
interstate,
people
the
don't
freedom.
some people don't mind driving downtown, whereas I'm like full on panic attack and traumatized. Like why? Why is this a thing? Um I think you hit the nail on the head too, is finding what speaks to your soul in a way that you can tap into any given moment. I think that's really, really crucial. So figuring that out, getting clear on that, trying out things, I would say is also a really good way of kind of being in practice. I want to talk to the people who I want to talk from a joyful practice because I recognize kind of something that we said about how some people are joyously pretending they're joy filled. So having a joyful practice, how to really cultivate joy essentially is really important. So gratitude, writing what you're grateful for, it helps you to have a greater sense of joy with your life because you start to see the goodness that you have in your life. So that's a really good joyful practice. And then for those that want to bypass feeling sad, even though they're still sad and they're just avoiding the acknowledgement that their sadness they're still carrying with them, is creating a space for sadness through what you were saying, like journaling, breath work. Breathing can really help calm the nervous system. It helps to really move energy. Tapping is really helpful. And art journaling on another level. Because one thing that I've worked with
That just
people
came.
before, years ago, when I used to actually take just like health coach, when I used to do health coaching, I don't like the word coach, but health coaching, health
Okay.
practitioner, I'll say that.
Okay.
A lot of people struggle with processing and acknowledging their feelings. So one really helpful practice that I have, worked with myself and also clients is like take a piece of paper, draw a circle, and just get some crayons, markers, pens, and just draw. Just pick it and just like draw your feelings out and
Just let go.
on it. And reflect on it and look at it and then start to put words to what you're seeing. Because a lot of times people don't have that practice, or they haven't had the space or the encouragement to
Awesome.
sit with someone and be like, so how are you feeling? If you've never have had that, when someone asks you how you're feeling, you're going to be like, I'm fine. That's not honest. And I think it's really important to have practices that you can tap in that's not dependent on other people. But I have to say this, if you are in distress, overwhelm, and you're like, none of those things, I need something more, seek a professional help. You're not alone. Find a counselor, a therapist to talk through your sadness and your grief. Some other helpful ways are to also find a support group to connect with like-minded people that can understand what you're going through. So don't do it alone. There's no need to do it alone.
We'll
All right,
definitely share some things.
closing thoughts, because that went by really fast.
Yeah, it did. I mean, there's some books I guess we can recommend as we go through an interim that I believe can help people. That's helped us. So we'll look into that. But I think looking at, I just talked about how you can overcome sadness, and you did the joy thing. See how that works?
What?
Let's see. So we
What?
bounced off each other.
Yeah. Hey, every
Yeah.
emotion is purposeful. I'm not hating on joy. I just was like, why are you hating on sadness?
I was
That's
just
when I
telling you
was
how I feel.
like,
Well, that's because I don't like to feel sad. Well, I didn't. I
man,
mean,
I
I'm I'm,
understand.
I'm
I
honoring it now,
understand it. I understand that you don't like to stay in that space, and I don't
but
think that
I'm
that's a
okay with
bad
it
thing.
now.
That's not a bad thing. I guess from my perspective, I work with so many people who avoid feeling sadness, and it gives me pause
Well,
of like, okay, are we avoiding feeling or are we feeling it and we're recognizing that I want to approach my sadness with a little bit of joy sprinkled in. I don't want to stay there.
mm-hmm.
So I think that's a good thing to want to live a joy filled life. That's the goal.
Yeah. Well, it's to tap
Sure.
into your inner, because I believe the essence of who we really are is joy. We experience certain things through life's, you know, peaks and
Mm-hmm.
valleys, ups and downs, disappointments. But we can't really put ourselves, into one another, especially when it comes to relationships, which is a whole different puppy. And people will go in, but you have to look and think and be still and understand and see and then receive the information. What's for you is for you, what's not is not. But I think the ideal is to feel the feelings, and the whole big thing is because sadness seems to be a vulnerable, or we talked about being weak. It's not. To feel that is just what it is. So it's not a weakness. For men to feel sad, I understand America got it where you're supposed to be all this and that. But we women think, have that too, not to be anything. It's just energy. It has nothing to do with gender. But for them, it's really harder because people think that they're not supposed to feel, and they have the same feelings and the same things and the same humanness that all of us have. And as I was having a conversation with a guy a long time ago practicing my golf stroke, is that it's different. So they need an entity or a place or a gathering where they can allow themselves to do it. Maybe they won't do it out in the public or at the supermarket or wherever it is, but they still need to have that opportunity to come together and be able to share what they go through in the world and be able to express their emotions in such a way that they need to, like anyone else, like anyone else. you know, you know,
Yep.
whether, just because, people, what I understand, through family members, that if your mother passed, then it's okay to cry. But if you're going through anything else, as I mentioned, if you want to look at This Is Us, the series with Randall, is that he's a human being. He has feelings. And then we have different ways we do, but we don't need to be anything other than who we are to feel what we need to feel and express what we need to be healthy in this world, especially by the mind. Suffering begins and ends in the mind.
Mm. We're gonna leave it there. We're not gonna
Yeah.
say nothing else because we want you to tune in. So we hope that you enjoyed this spiritually grounded conversation, and leave us a comment down below. Comment down below what resonated with you
Yes, please.
um, from this conversation. And also, I'm also curious to know, for those interested in sharing, what practice are you going to try to lean into to cultivate a greater sense of connecting with your sadness or cultivating a greater sense of joy in your life? So comment down below, engage with us. Give us your feedback. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you love this content. And I'm not sure if I said this again, but I can't say it enough. Be sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notifications so you can receive notifications when we post future content on this channel. So thank you so much for joining us. And again, I hope to see you. We both hope to see you on the next conversation on The Alchemist over there. Who are you? Shout out your...
Warriors out of Aren.
And I'm
deep
the
bow, everybody.
Oh, she's deep bowing. And I'm the Oracle, Nicole Nick Love. Yeah, that's me. What's up, peace? All right. We'll see
Much love, y'all.
in the next one. Bye.
Bye.